I do love the Fontaine soundtrack for Genshin Impact. So I wanted it to... I was going to start earlier. I really was, but I was just listening to it and I'm like, dang. Back when Genshin was good. I'm kidding. But Fontaine was peak. I think Fontaine had probably some of the best music in the game, some of the best story in the game, and the best world to explore, for sure. And characters. Oh my gosh, if we're talking about characters, Fontaine was loaded with amazing characters. So yeah, just a little bit of a tangent before we get started with today's stream, but welcome back everyone. It's another Seyorias stream where I actually completed it. A week straight of not only being on time for stream, but streaming 3 times a week. I've completed the hardest part, getting started after a hiatus. So once we've gotten out of this, rut that we're in, which is my hiatus of not posting and not live streaming at all, we can get back to what I want to do, which is back to content creation. And the silver lining to all of this is I have posted not even just the Shorn VODs, but my JoJo Lands video for last month, earlier today. So that's posted on my channel. And so I have theoretically not missed a single day of not posting a video. And that's pretty impressive on my part to get to this point where I have been consistent posting every day, which it says in my YouTube banner, which I have not adhered to at all. But for some reason this week, even though it's been like a rough week for me, I have been on top of my YouTube game. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel great about it. Before we even delve into the topic of today's stream, which is about confidence and some incorporating a little bit of what I'm dealing with right now, but also leaning more into my past self and who I was and how that's impacting myself currently and potentially my future self. I want to sort of just talk about stream a little bit because I need to thank you guys. I have been posting more consistently, and I know numbers aren't going to be great, especially after a huge hiatus of not posting, because consistency is key and consistency can be a killer. Or more important, let me rephrase that. Inconsistency can be a killer, because the moment you stop streaming, the moment you stop posting videos, it's over. Like, you lose subscribers, you lose viewers, you lose the idea of you posting. Like, it's almost like a TV show when you wait forever and the next episode or the mid-season premiere doesn't happen for another couple months. You have to really have it on your radar, or else you're not going to get back into that show. You know what I mean? That's what it's like for streaming on YouTube. It's like, I spent so long just not posting. Now I'm the numbers weren't great from my first video back and my first stream back, which I was fine with, because at least on YouTube, because I knew that was on me. That was 100% on me. But this is my 3rd stream this week, and I would say my 4th video, I think, or 3rd or something like that. And I'm already seeing a return in numbers where people are watching it. And I think that's crazy that I've gotten over 30 views on something, which for someone who has 1,200 subscribers, yes, am I that's a little bit weird for me to say, yeah, 30 views on a video is huge. To me, it is, because I've been in such a hiatus that now that I've been back, I'm gaining back that momentum. And you'll know this if you start content creation, or if you are a content creator, how important momentum is to a channel. Because once the ball starts rolling and you keep it up, it is like adrenaline. It makes you feel so it's like Venom, like the stuff that I'm talking about the DC Venom, where it's the stuff that Bane injects into him that makes him super buff and ripped. That's how you feel with just gaining views on YouTube. or gaining numbers on stream, it makes you feel like incredible. So I have to thank you guys for tuning in and watching, because the only reason why I'm feeling so pumped right now is because of viewers like you, which makes me sound like a PBS commercial, but that's besides the point. I still want to thank you guys for your help and in creating sort of this, I guess, change in pace from my usual stream, or what my expectations were for getting back into streaming, because I'm already exceeding what I was expecting to see coming back. So it's motivating me to post more. I'm going to be posting a video, maybe it's a short VOD of today's stream onto my channel for tomorrow and then Sunday, but we'll see. And then we have, of course, Monday's stream too to consider, but I just wanted to get this off my chest and say thank you. And the goal is 20-minute videos. I think that is my sweet spot. 2 minutes, like within the ballpark of like 18 to 22 minutes. Like, don't go 30, don't go 10. I think that's like the perfect sweet spot for a video, because you have a nice runtime. And if you could be entertaining for that whole 20 minutes, it's huge. And I get it from like some of the streamers I watch, where I watch their 20-minute shortened VODs, and I'm like, wait a minute. That's like the perfect time for me to get back from work, or a perfect commute to like a restaurant or the grocery store, where I play it on my aux in the car. I'll just play 20-minute videos. I don't like hour-long videos because, well, sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't whenever I'm like busy doing something, because I want like sort of that break to pause the video, or like when the video stops, I'll like pause, get something done, and then go back in and listen to it like another video. So yeah, that's why. It's a weird thing to say, speaking from someone who's a content creator talking about watching YouTube. And I will say it is very strange, because I'm part of, I guess, the generation of streamers who have watched and gotten used to what streaming is and what YouTube is as a whole, I guess. Like content creation as a whole has evolved. Because when did it come out? Like the first YouTube video was 2008, right? I want to say it was the zoo video, right, in 2008. And it's 2024. It's like 16 years later. That's like over a decade. And like, we already have this whole subculture to just internet videos. Not even just the internet, just internet videos as a whole. To the point where now, like, the streamers like me who are growing up and becoming content creators are the ones who have consumed the brain rot of the internet. And you'll see that in content creators nowadays, where either they are some of the most normal, nicest people on the planet, and you can tell exactly what videos they watch and like what wholesome creators they used to follow. And then you have the absolute degenerates who you knew watched the type of content back in the dark ages of YouTube. You know what I mean? There's like no in between. And I think I fall into that category a little bit. And the only reason why I haven't gone unhinged is because I feel like I have a little bit of morals with how I view content creation, because I've heard lots of stories of it being abused. Like, you can weaponize fans to do horrible things to rival content creators. You know, just the parasocial relationships in general are like awful. And then on top of all of that, just streamer drama and people legitimately live streaming crimes nowadays. Like, it's insane. So like, I'm fortunate to be that guy who's like, I'm not a part of that. I don't want anything to do with that. Instead, I want to be a content creator who's just for the vibes and creating like the fun atmosphere. You know what I mean? I'm just a guy who talks in front of a mic, who has a Luffy plush right next to him. That's who I am. Like, I genuinely don't understand like the need to cause chaos for content, because all it's gonna do is land you in trouble, which always like bewilders me. Like I'll use this as an example, because I love the YouTuber Atozy, right? Atozy's the YouTuber who covers a lot of the drama, but he usually does it in a way that like often like just like puts down and discourages anyone from following in their footsteps, all these horrible streamers, and he'll cover it like sort of like a reporter. And the big one is Johnny Somali. I think that was his like rise to fame, is just covering Johnny Somali and everything in South Korea. Johnny Somali to me is like the perfect example of, and this is where I resonate personally with the whole drama with Johnny Somali, because I think he's like an awful human being. But it's also just, I think he is a symbol of what too much publicity, too much negative PR, too much like I want to say it's like too much brain rot and just listening to people on the internet will just destroy your life. And rightfully so. Like he's gonna go, the Korea justice system is not letting him go, and I hope that they appropriately sentence him for all the crimes he committed in South Korea. And as you know, I've mentioned this before on stream. I mean, I have it right here. I have this Pocket Soul book because I went to South Korea not even like a couple weeks ago. It is one of the most beautiful countries I have ever visited. The nicest people, compared to the US, of course. That's what I'm comparing it to. Like, they were so helpful knowing I'm a foreigner. I was trying to be nice and they were helping me with directions, food orders. If they spoke no English, they were still nice enough and patient enough to help us through wherever we needed, whether it was concert tickets, whether it was like finding the right metro, or, you know, ordering something at like a hole in the wall restaurant, you know, just that kind of benevolence and sincerity. The fact that Johnny Somali did that to this culture and this group of people, that is very telling of sort of the evil that resides in the internet. And I think that is sort of, I think that he actually created, I will give him props, he created that classification, the Johnny Somali types. Because of him alone, gotta give him credit. You know, he's such a horrible person. He's like Hitler in a sense, where it's like any horrible person, you compare him to Hitler, everyone knows the comparison you're making, right? Everyone knows, oh yeah, that person's probably an evil human being. Johnny Somali did that with his name. Like, he created this persona that everyone thinks, oh, he's a Johnny Somali type for any bad streamer. So we got to give him props for being such an awful human being, because now we can easily identify similar like repeat offenders of people who follow in his footsteps, all these horrible streamers. So yeah. Yeah, I vow here and now, especially with what I've heard from last TwitchCon, not this TwitchCon, of course, because there's a whole nother drama surrounding that. But if you remember, I also was like following up on, I think TwitchCon 2024, where a bunch of Kick streamers invaded and were just harassing people in the venue for whatever reason, which Kick already has a horrible reputation. And I did give them props for at least giving creators, like, you know, more of a monetary benefit for joining their platform. I did give them that, because that was a criticism of Twitch I have currently. But I still think Twitch isn't a great platform, and its creators are doing it, they're doing it a disservice, because like Kick could be like a respected rival to Twitch had it not been for inviting the type of people who stream on Twitch or on Kick to Kick. Like, anyone who is like a horrible human being who uses like drama, creates chaos just for clicks and attention, they end up on Kick, okay? So Kick isn't known for the best reputation. But it makes it even worse, because at TwitchCon 2024, you heard all these Kick streamers were just like harassing people for no reason. Again, I label them as Johnny Somali types because it's just an easy comparison. Like, people who literally have no morals, no ethos for what it means to be a creator with influence on the internet space, and believe that they're untouchable. And the only way to make sure that they learn from that is by doing similar things to what's happening with Johnny Somali. And that's by throwing the book at them and making sure that if they break the law, well, you get served a sentence. That's it. It's not a threat. I don't want anyone, and that's also a thing too that I don't like for like creators doing, is when you issue threats or even joke about threats of smaller creators or creators of equal size, especially when you have a big following, because then it's like, well, now you're just threatening a person. And even if you're joking about it, what if your parasocial viewers, one of them, it just takes one person to like follow through, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just I know the topic of today is I'm not confident. I want to get into that. But let me just start by saying I am at least confident in one thing, and that is my ability to be a good person. And I swear and I vow that I will never fall into that trap of abandoning my community for a sponsorship that is shady. It scams my viewers or could be detrimental to my viewers. I will not invite negativity into the space that I want to create, because that's just not how I view content creation, at least to the streamers I look up to. Because I firmly believe, and this goes back, I mean, I have One Piece right here, you know, the idea of Nakama, family, like whether it's the Hashira and Demon Slayer, or, you know, the Straw Hat crew in One Piece, or my biggest example is the Fairy Tail Guild in Fairy Tail, where anyone, regardless of who you are, can come to this place if you want to have fun, if you vibe with sort of the things we talk about, which mostly will be anime, and I will make sure that you have a welcoming experience and you are treated equally to your peers. That is sort of the community I want to strive for and I want to achieve. And I will continue to repeat this. If anyone asks me to repeat what I said today about what I want my community to be, well, that's it. That's what I want, is to be a good person for those around me. And oh, Black Bulls, you know, from Black Clover, another great example of something I strive to achieve. Sorry, I'm switching my speakers real quick. But yeah, I mean, so my point is that I try to strive to be a little bit more virtuous. I strive to follow in the ways of a Joestar, not a Diego Brando, okay? That's actually a good way of putting it. You know, all these Dio types who are just petty and hurting people for no reason, you know, only for they're sociopaths pretty much, right? I'll be your Joestar. I'll be the JoJo. I'll be the say yo. I don't know, yo, you know. But speaking of JoJo Lands, if you haven't seen it, I posted a video earlier today. So the recent chapter, Dom and I in Domino Mind talked about it. Is that a JoJo reference? It is. It is a JoJo's reference, because I think JoJo's is peak. And my goodness, I mentioned this before too. So I got caught up on, so I kind of went on a Tron binge after Tron Ares. I watched Tron Uprising, which is peak, by the way. Please watch Tron Uprising. It is a phenomenal show. But the thing that's upsetting to me is that there's no season 2. And I'm sad because they're probably never going to make a season 2, because that was 13 years ago. And the revival doesn't look great because Ares is bombing at the box office. But what I will say is, although Tron may be in the gutter and we will never get more Tron content, the same way we won't get Transformers 1, a proper sequel to that, because that didn't do well because the marketing was awful. Whole nother can of worms there. At least I can rely on JoJo to give me more content, because JoJo Lands is fire right now. We had this big revelation with a certain character who you thought was going to be a one-off character, but is very important to the plot now. Very important. And Indomitable talked about it. It's on my channel. But we also have Steel Ball Run announced and coming as an anime. And I don't know about you, but Steel Ball Run has my favorite moments, like out of pocket, what the actual moments in JoJo. And I love it. It's great. And it's like, because it's political, it's religious, it's on horseback, it's talking about American imperialism, there's horse races, there's a lot of spinning. If you haven't recognized it, Yeah, if you want to know JoJo, search for like the French investigator for Lover. The man is a JoJo character, and I've seen it. I have seen that photo because someone said, "Look, this is what a detective or investigator looks like, and this is his actual outfit." And I'm like, dude, this guy is just dripped out like a JoJo character. Like it's true. It's true. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, no, JoJo, I think JoJo is, yeah. He was dripped out. I think JoJo too. Here's the thing about JoJo that I love. Though you can tell a type of person, I hate to say it, okay? You can tell an individual's personality, because I'm going to say person's personality. I don't want to say person twice. An individual's personality based on the anime he watches. If JoJo is somewhere in there, 99% of the time, it's not flawless. They're a chill person, okay? The fedora as well, yeah. No, he had the whole fit on, okay? Yeah, you can't, I will say, and also, the thing I like about JoJo too, it's mainstream, don't get me wrong, but I'm also happy that JoJo is not like bigger, if you know what I mean. In the sense of, it's not One Piece levels of popularity or Demon Slayer levels of popularity. And I'm happy about that, because if JoJo got any bigger in terms of fandom, I feel like I don't know. I love One Piece. I mean, I have a Luffy plush next to me, but I just don't like some of the One Piece fandom because I think they're kind of cringe. I think One Piece has become too big for its own good, and there's a portion of the fan base that has existed, because there's always a toxic part of an anime fan base, don't get me wrong, but they've quadrupled in size, and now they're more annoying than ever. Same goes with Demon Slayer, where they just spoil the shit out of the manga wherever they can because they want to be dicks, okay? Yeah, to be fair, JoJo is that level of big in only certain places. Yeah. Well, I'm talking like Mr. Worldwide here. You can say One Piece is Mr. Worldwide. You can say Demon Slayer is Mr. Worldwide, because they literally had movies in movie theaters, like multiple movies at the theaters, and it's been making bank, you know? You can't like, I'll like, and this is also like the way I view it as someone in the US, where if I go to work and I say, hey, I've been watching this anime, if everyone knows exactly what show you're talking about, it's big. And that is One Piece and Demon Slayer. If I say JoJo, I'll be generous, 70% of people may know what I'm talking about. But with Demon Slayer and like One Piece, it's like 90. But yeah, JoJo is big though in some places for sure. I'm not arguing that JoJo isn't big. I'm saying worldwide, it's not to the level of One Piece and Demon Slayer. And I'm gonna leave it there. I think that's okay. JoJo doesn't need that level of popularity. I don't need more cringe people injecting themselves into the fan base. Because then you get a lot more gooners. I hate to say it. You get a lot more gooners, and then I'm just like, I'm so turned off. I'm just like, and you ruined it. You ruined it. Because now, like, and this is, okay, this is kind of a criticism, a little bit of like and call me an elitist. Call me privileged because I've watched anime before COVID, like years before COVID. I was ahead of the curve. But I just don't like how all the popular TikToks about anime have to deal with fan service one way or another. And call me pretentious, but I feel like, yes, fan service was a part of anime. It is a part of, even JoJo has fan service moments, for sure, for sure. But my God, it's not the whole thing. Stop thinking the whole show is just fan service. You know what I mean? It sucks. Like, it's just like, yeah, but like, fan service is fine, but you don't understand why people fall in love with the show, because fan service, because they have straight up ecchi shows. Fan service only goes so far, and the reason why people love shows is because the story and like something that it does to elevate it to a personal level. And JoJo is an example of that. JoJo is phenomenal because, one, the character designs are funny, but like it's like a villain of the week fight every time, but they change genres each part, and it's a lineage. And JoJo Part 7, I can say this because Part 6 ended. The reason why Part 7 is so monumentally huge, like it has a monumental change to the existing story by creating a whole new universe in which the JoJo exists. That's what makes it so fascinating, is like you're not used to this new universe, and your timeline and the family tree is so skewed from Part 6 because Jolene is no longer a JoJo technically, right? It's Irene. And same goes with like the Jotaro as we know it, like Joseph as we know it. They're completely different, and I think that's so fascinating. Yeah, I could talk on and on about JoJo. And then also like, oh my, the sand fights, like just the creativity and the bizarreness, no pun intended, of just how they get out of these situations. What are the situations they get put into in the first place? Like the whole plot of Part 5, the climax revolves around a turtle, and that turtle is a central character. Saying that out of context, everyone's gonna be like, what the are you talking about? You know what I mean? But for a JoJo viewer, you knew exactly what type of context. Or better yet, you know, Part 5 is about a drug dealing teenager trying to become a mafia boss within a week. Like, this, it's just JoJo. Just roll with it. We went from vampires to Italian mafia. Like, don't think about it too much. But yeah, like, I don't know. I still think JoJo was one of the shows I think took me the longest to get into. But here's what I will say. I had struggled to get into JoJo because I put it on hold after halfway through Part 1, after they beat the mansion and he beat Dio the first time. I struggled to get back into it because I thought that was a good end, and I was like, I don't want to watch more of this show. It just seems generic if they keep repeating the same plot points. Because I will admit Part 1 is slow. Part 1 is for sure slow. I appreciate it more looking back at it, but at the time, as a new casual anime fan, I was like, it's kind of slow. But then I forced myself back into it. They're like, just skip to Part 3. I'm like, no, I'm going in order. And I'm glad I did, because then I watched Part 2. And Part 2 was peak battle tendency, which people don't talk about. It's battle tendency, guys. And then Part 3, of course, Stardust Crusaders, and then onward. I think Part 2, it does pick up, and then you can go on from there. You just have to get through Part 1, and that is a little bit the slog, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I still think, oh yeah, and the music and the openings for JoJo are like, it's like a cultural thing. It's iconic, where they keep evolving, they keep changing, and sometimes they foreshadow some events that end up happening later on. So it's kind of cool in that way. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, the gears are turning. What does that mean in Part 3? Not saying anything, but maybe it has a factor to do with what they're going to end up fighting in the end. And it plays a huge part in that, especially with it altering the entire premise of the opening, where it becomes like, oh yeah, they're gonna fight, and then oh no, the big bad shows up. And you know what I'm talking about with part 3, with Dio showing up in that opening, which was honestly just a mind-blowing change when I was watching it, because I'm someone who watches, if it's a good opening, I'll watch it through every episode. I do not care. If the song is good and the animation is good, JoJo is one of those. I will put it on and I'll just let it ride. Like, just straight up. I got to that point and I felt so rewarded for watching, because I'm like, holy shit. You know, it's like, it's crazy. I don't know why I'm like not cussing. It's weird. There you go, Luffy. But what I will say is funny. Out of all the figures I have in the back of my room, I have one for ReZero. I have one for Detective Conan. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Bunny Girl Senpai, funny enough. And quintessential quintuplets. I do not have a JoJo figure yet. It's on my bucket list. I just haven't found a good JoJo figure yet. Like, when I'm like in person and able to buy it. So that's on my list. Oh, and I got One Piece figures too. But for sure, it's on my list. I gotta get a JoJo figure. But okay, I'll wrap up here for JoJo, because I want to get to the main point of the stream, which is like talking about confidence and stuff. But I guess I can factor in JoJo to that. But also, one thing I think that is so good about JoJo that people don't really think about is the world building, and how despite different genres, despite different characters, and it spanning literal decades, and I'll say it, centuries, if we could take into fact the gap between part 6 and 7, you can still follow along well enough where you're not completely lost. And I think that's amazing. From a technical angle, from a story point to an anime point, the fact that you're able to follow along without any like major like questions in your head of like, I don't understand this part. I don't understand this part. Why is there a torture dance in here? Well, why is everyone dancing? And what is Morio Radio? You know, you get those questions answered when you watch it, and you just kind of accept it. And I think that's like the beauty within JoJo, is like, it's an oddity. It's so bizarre to watch this show, and for whatever reason, you just accept it. And it makes it more enjoyable when you just accept it. You accept the way you need, like, designs. You accept the wackiness of it all. Like, they fight a literal, and this is the funniest part, they fight a literal cell tower, and that's not even the spoiler. They fight a cell tower in one of the parts, and it is a brutal fight. And I think it's so funny to me. I just say that and people are just so confused. Like, what do you mean they fight a cell tower? They fight a cell tower. You know, that tower where you get internet, or the power lines, you know? They fight that thing. It's like, what? But yeah, JoJo is unmatched. JoJo is... I think JoJo is a show everyone should give it a shot. A lot of people are not going to like it, like me, because of part 1. Part 1 is very slow, but if you can get over that hump of part 1, and you can get to the point where you finish part 1, you'll feel a lot better, because from that point on, it's good. It's great. So yeah. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of JoJo, and like my favorite streamers, like that's why I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Sea Dog VA is my favorite out of the trio for trash taste because he's a JoJo fan and everything he does is JoJo, and I think that even makes it even better. The fact that he bought a suit that was custom JoJo, I was like, dude, that's sick. The fact that he was up like me late at night. I was up at 4 a.m. during COVID for the announcement of part 6. And I freaked out because Jolene got announced. This was something I did and I was like losing my mind over. Was like, Jolene is coming. I didn't think this was going to happen. I didn't think they were going to adapt part 6 because of all the copyright with Disney. Because they mentioned Disney and they mentioned the Cubs. I thought it was gonna be a little bit of a hard battle to fight to see if we can reference those, but they found ways around that by not mentioning them. So I'm glad at least we got part 6. And now part 7, because now JoJolion, which took a decade to make, looks like it's on the horizon, and that theoretically means we're gonna get a part 9 anime. JoJo Land's anime in the future. I think that's so fun. I actually think that the fact that we may get that at the pace that they're going, because they're already at part 7, we could see it in like, I want to say less than 10 years. No, a little more than 10 years. Between 10 and 20 years, we could see part 9 anime. And by that time, part 9 would be done. So I think they're going at a really good pace. So yeah, let me end the JoJo talk there. If you're interested in my JoJo Lands videos, I started when JoJo Lands dropped with Indomitable chapter 1. I am completely caught up and I have a whole video series and a playlist if you guys are interested on my channel, my YouTube channel, if you're watching on Twitch. So if you're interested, go check it out there. That's my little self plug, but yeah, Indomitable I like talking about. I'm just gonna call him Dom to shorten it, but Dom and I like to talk about JoJo. So go check it out over there. Give us some love, because we do put a lot of effort into those videos and being consistent. And it's just a matter of just making sure our schedules line up because we're both pretty busy. But yeah, now on to the main topic of today's video. Confidence. I don't have any of it. I'm kind of like Zenitsu. I suffer from being an introvert, or let me reiterate. I suffer from being the weird kid because my interests did not align with anyone else's growing up. I was into a lot of the shows, like cartoons, that not a lot of kids were into. Maybe that's why I was an anime fan. But my interests were here. Everyone else's was here. So, not the same at all. There is a gap between that. So I definitely was, of course, forced to enjoy some of the things that the other kids liked, even if I thought it was stupid, because I wanted to fit in. Like, and look, classic introvert story. You know, I don't have confidence sharing about my interests because people thought it was weird, so I'd be quiet about it. You know, tale old as time, right? I like a show. I know people don't like this show. I'm gonna be quiet about it and move on. You know what I mean? So, because of me being an introvert and wanting to be by myself, not because I was scared necessarily of people around me, but I just found so much enjoyment with spending time to myself. Which now is funny because now I'm in the opposite predicament where I spend too much time as an extrovert and now I'm trying to reel it back in to save some time for myself. That's a whole nother can of worms I'll get into. But the reason why I'm mentioning this in particular is because of the way I was introverted, the reason why I ended up developing a lot of friendships with a lot of not great people and not great friends because I was seeking something that I thought genuine friendship was, and it wasn't, because I wasn't used to what authentic relationships were. It could also be because I was like 8 and I didn't know that it was going to have lasting consequences, the people you choose to make friends with years down the line, because the people you make, and people think, oh yeah, no, you make new friends. Of course you do. But your core set of friends that you grow up with, especially if you go to the same elementary school, middle school, and high school, they'll carry over and you'll know everyone. And if you friend the wrong people for the wrong reasons, like I did, you'll pay for it. And I did. And now I have a lot of self-confidence issues because the friends that I thought I had would constantly put me down and wouldn't share the same interests as me. Even if I opened up more and was more open about the things I liked, despite them being controversial. And I don't mean controversial as political. I want to state that. I mean it as in I don't have any shame in saying this. I am a Batman v Superman fan. I think Zack Snyder had a great Elseworlds take on DC lore. A lot of people don't feel the same way as me. They think DC needs to be perfect and very faithful to the comics, and therefore it is trash. Everything he does is trash. And so I had a lot of problems growing up because even though I tried my best to reason, I was alienated because everyone else didn't see the same way I did. So maybe that's a little bit of where the confident issues arise with me, where I can be very timid and shy, especially in social circles, with friends at the time, because I felt put down. I didn't feel supported by anyone. The things I loved, I was told to hate. The things I didn't hate anything, but things I wasn't a fan of, other people loved to death. So it was like sort of like a weird place to be. And luckily I was able to escape that by going to college. College was great. I met a great group of friends who welcomed me, taught me like what real friends are and are supposed to be. And this is like the prime indicator for me on how I knew I found my friends. And I have to thank Fairy Tail for it. That's why Fairy Tail is my favorite anime, because it taught me like, look, this is what friends do. We'll rib on each other all the time. We'll crack jokes. But the difference between friends is the friends I had in the past would abandon me if like I fell behind, if I was like slow or needed to tie my shoe or something. They'd run off and like leave me. If I tied my shoe with my real friends, they would wait for me. Or they would stop at the corner and wait and then ask if I was okay. That's how you know the difference between friends. So it was because of them that I was able to open up more and become very much the extrovert. Like I'm an extrovert because I'm streaming, like that's how confident I am to talking with what I know. But the problem is nowadays, whenever I talk to strangers, I still have that confidence issue where I don't feel inclined to share that I have a streaming channel, or I like these YouTubers, or I like anime, specifically Fairy Tail. And I can say that to friends. I can't say that to strangers, that's a lie. I can't say it to some strangers because I feel like there's an amount of judgment that will be caused because I share an opinion of mine that is a little bit weird and off. And so if a stranger goes up to me and says they love Fairy Tail, I will be your instant friend. If you don't say anything, I'm going to be a little bit weird opening up to you. That's just how it is. That's just how I am. And it's because of this complicated relationship where I went from introvert to extrovert, but with the right people and the right groups, that now I have confidence issues with my friends. Because now my friends, I'll say things and now I'm like second guessing myself because of the trauma that I had to deal with growing up. Because the friends at that time would always like put me down, say I wasn't great, or would say anything I liked was like the dumbest thing ever, you know? So that reinforcement, even though I know it's not true and I moved past that, it still affects me deep down in here. So yeah, it's just like, it's tough. And especially with like this week, and I'm not gonna lie, I've mentioned this before, it's been a tough week for me. Because I was up here, and now I'm down here. And it's not great. It really isn't. And I've made a video talking about like my mental health. That's how like rough it is I made a whole stream about it, edited it down, and made it into a VOD. Like, it was so depressing. My internet halfway through, and you'll see I edited that video, cut out for like a good couple minutes because it was too depressed to hear the rest of my like the awful things I was going through and my mental health. It was I don't know, I just thought it was funny. But yeah, so with the confidence thing, I'm now sort of in this weird place where I like to say I'm more of an omnivert now as instead of an extrovert, because there are times where my social battery is drained. I can't talk to anyone. I can't talk to my family. I can't talk to friends. Not because I hate them or I'm in a bad mood with them. It's just I'm not in the mood, period. So I need to like boot up Marvel Rivals. I need to play Genshin Impact, you know? Just something where I can spend my free time listening to music to do my own thing and have peace of mind. And I mentioned this before, like, what is comfortable for you? What is your happy place? And to me, that's what it is. Just taking that leisure time for myself to just hang out. And that's what also, like, I think sometimes does get into my way when I try to be confident, especially with, and I think it also deals with a lot of situations that I'm not that familiar with. I also lose confidence there. If it's not something I'm like well versed in, whether like if it's anime, I'm confident in that. Yeah, I can talk hours about anime, whether it's my favorite show or my opinions, whether you're wrong or whether you're right. Yeah, I can talk about that. If we're talking about like JoJo, for example, we were talking JoJo earlier for a while, and I'm like, exactly. But like anime, but then if it's like something like, oh, what my for example, what my job is, you know, about dating and like real life relationship, what it means to be in relationships, I don't have that much experience with it or familiarity with it, so I'm gonna be a little bit more like cautious with my words and maybe not have the best confidence within my answers. That's where I think I get a little bit stalled in my thinking and how I act. And you'll notice this too. If I come up with anything, whether it's a topic like about, you know, that's why I try and stay away from politics in general, because one, I don't think I'm that well versed in politics. I'm not really the best speaker, and I feel like anything I say will just be misconstrued heavily. I just don't want to like open that can of worms. Like I just don't. Also because I feel like it's the same thing with the confidence issue. I just can't say anything with confidence because I don't know right from wrong. Because everyone has an agenda, and I just choose to opt out. I will talk about like the politics of a kingdom, like the different types of government, and talking about like fictional settings like Luffy versus the Marines and liberation, you know, in the idea of One Piece. But I just struggle to find it because it's different talking about fiction, because there's absolutes in fiction as opposed to like the real world, which is a lot more gray. So, and I will also admit this too. When I was streaming, before my hiatus, when I was still streaming, the biggest fear for me, and this is where my confidence was at my lowest, was watching what I was saying, because I was scared of being canceled or potentially losing my job for whatever reason. Even though anything I said, which I thought back on, everything I said isn't worthy of being fired from my job. Like, I don't mention my job, I don't bring up my job, but for some reason in the back of my head, I think I'm toast if like my stream career gets out. I personally just keep it under wraps now because I just want to separate private from professional. But if it does get out, it's a whatever kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not as scared anymore to like speak my mind and like have opinions about things that I feel are my opinions, but maybe not everyone agrees with. Like how I actually think Demon Slayer Infinity Castle Part 1 was an amazing movie, except for the pacing. I thought the pacing was atrocious, but I also understand that was more of the like the manga itself as opposed to the adaptation, because all the adaptation was doing was following the manga. And I already know that from people I've talked to, the Infinity Castle saga is a little bit rushed. The last part of Demon Slayer is a little bit rushed, so just be prepared for that. But I'll let know that is a flaw. It is the pacing and then the flashbacks, the constant flashbacks. As much as it adds so much to the story, I feel like you could have spaced it out better so you don't get bogged down with the like seeing all these flashbacks and ruining the momentum. But then it begs the question, was this better as like an anime format, like where it's like an 23-minute episodes? Would that have done better service than a movie, and then it would have felt more natural? I don't know, but I will say the pacing was bad. Or in my opinion, like how I had this amazing experience with the Spy Family Code White movie. I thought that was a great movie, and it was ruined because teenagers were talking, and I'll rant about how I hate teenagers. Call me boomer. I am Gen Z. Call me boomer. Anyways, like I hate teenagers because they don't understand that even though it's an anime, don't talk during the movie. It's a movie still. Don't talk. It's not that hard. If you're in a movie theater and it's an anime movie, guess what? It's still a movie theater. Don't talk. My goodness. It's crazy. Yeah, and it is funny though, when I go on a rant, I gain so much confidence. That is where I will say there are times where I'm at my lowest confidence. I am at my highest when I'm arguing about something I know I'm right on. It is the greatest feeling in the world, okay? How I argue Fairy Tail is the greatest anime of all time and you cannot prove me wrong. I have yet to lose. I have yet to lose. That is something I still hold a dub over. What else? Oh, I am seeing Chainsaw Man tomorrow. I'm so pumped about that. Dude, Chainsaw Man's gonna be so peak. It's Reze arc, right? I've always said Riz, but it's Reze, I think. But anyways, Bomb Devil. I'm just gonna say Bomb Devil. Bomb Devil arc is, I thought it was one of my favorite WTF moments in the manga. To see it animated is gonna be crazy. It's gonna be glorious. But like again, I'm gonna go as an anime fan, and I was thinking maybe doing this fun TikTok of me dressing up in a suit and going, but this is after a full day at work. I'm gonna be like absolutely drenched in sweat. I don't know if I want to put on a suit, you know, like I'm gonna come back after work, you know, shower, and then head out to the theater. I don't know if I want to like put on a suit and do all of that again, you know, after that long day of work. But that's just me. But yeah, so I think where my issue lies is I am very confident. It's weird. I think the best way to describe who I am as a person, at least currently when it comes to confidence, is JoJo Part 5. Yes, it's another JoJo's reference. Yes, I know this is like the third time, but hey, can't go wrong with too many JoJo references, okay? But I am like Diavolo. In the sense of, you know how Diavolo had two personalities? I forgot what his second one was. But how Diavolo was this mastermind, this evil person, and this other one was just like some like wimpy kid. That's who I am. There are moments where I have so much confidence. I'm like king of the world, main character syndrome going on. Like I am the best. I'm S rank hunter. I am peak solo leveling, you know? And then there's other times where I'm feeling like gutter trash. And there is no in between for me. I'm toggling between these two moods of way too much confidence, not enough confidence. Way too much confidence, not enough confidence. So whenever someone says, hey, you need to cool it, I think even lower. I feel so horrible. And then when I'm down here and people will think, oh no, you're amazing. You're one of the best people I know. Super high up. So it's sort of this weird mental thing for me where it's like, I'm way too hard on myself, but then I'm also too easy on myself. And that is like the issue. And I said this will be the death of me. It really will. Because there will come a time where I'm going to have to make a difficult decision. And if I'm down here where I'm feeling awful, I'm not going to be able to make that decision right. And I'm going to be, you know, second guessing myself. And I'm going to be insecure. Or I'm going to be way up here and then someone's going to say something, some criticism, and I'm going to fall back down here. That's how it goes with me. It's such an interesting thing. It's such a weird thing, but it is interesting. And the main thing that I've learned from talking about these things is as long as you recognize, and this is the difference between sociopaths and me and psychopaths and me, is psychopaths and sociopaths will not admit it. They'll just continue to do it without improving themselves, or they think it's a good thing to be in this state. I do not think it's a good thing to be in this state of back and forth confidence. And this is what someone told me. It's the first step is recognizing your problem and doing something about it. So I need to somehow, and this is like a weird thing to say, I feel like it's just the extreme ends of north and south, right? And all I gotta do is meet at the equator where I need my confidence levels, my overconfidence needs to drop down heavily and be like, look, I'm awesome, but don't be up here. You know what I mean? Like, don't be like, I'm the Chad. I walk around the playground. I'm so cool. The girls throw themselves at me. As much as I made jokes about that growing up, where it's like, oh yeah, girls love me. But of course, I made it as a joke because I thought it was stupid. But still, just the idea of that, I just think I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Of like thinking I'm up here that I could theoretically have like any girl who's interested in me, they could probably become my girlfriend if I put in the effort. That was kind of my mentality. And even if it is true, I think it was a very toxic one to have, because now I'm at a state where I'm like, well, dang, why did I do that to myself? Why did I like put in my head I'm like this Giga Chad? Because now I'm looking at all this, like all the things that some horrible people have said, and I'm like, well, that's just objectification. But then if they're doing it, what was I doing back then as like, what, a 15-year-old? You know what I mean? So making sure I correct my behavior, and then my underconfidence where I think, oh, people think I'm pathetic, I'm weak, I'm down here. No one likes me. Nah, like, come back up, come back up. You know it's not true. Why are you being hard on yourself? If you're being hard on yourself to be humble and modest, don't do that. So it just depends on like what you're feeling at the time. Because for me, my issue isn't I'm up here or down here. My issue is I need to narrow it so it's not as bad, not as extreme. And I'm fine. And the best part about it is I'm confident about explaining my mental health problems. I'm confident about sharing these things about myself, because my goal isn't to put down anyone or shame anyone who's dealing with similar things as me, but I'm more trying to give insight on what I'm dealing with, because I want everyone to know that even though I'm a streamer, I'm just human. Even if I'm like one viewer or 100,000 viewers, current viewers on Twitch or YouTube, that's not going to change who I am. I'm just a dude, you know, who sits behind a camera and not even a camera, a webcam, and just yaps. Like this stream was spur of the moment earlier this morning. I'm like, what should I talk about? Oh, confidence. Okay. We'll throw in Zenitsu into the thumbnail, and then we'll go from there. It's not really that much foresight. It's just we kind of roll with the punches. Yeah, you say there, Luffy. And like, I've always been an advocate also for like confidence within just people in general, because I know how it is. I really do know when it feels like when you have no confidence, and when you feel like everyone's looking at you, everyone's judging you, everyone feels like you're a waste of space. I know how that is. Because I've been in low points where that's been the case, where I had to look down and I thought everyone was making fun of me and people pushed me around. Not a great place to be. I also know when it's what it's like to be loved by everyone, praised by everyone. Everyone's looking up to you, saying you're an inspiration. So I've been on both ends, and it's a weird thing to say, but it's true. Because I've been on both ends, I kind of know what it's like for other people to only exist in those ends. Once you get trapped in just that mood, if you are stuck like that, I understand why you're having issues. I understand why every day doesn't feel like a gift. Because as much as people say, hey, just look up, feel better, it doesn't really feel better until it feels better for you. And I mentioned this before. There's a difference between, and this is, I think, the sixth sense that is gifted to humans, which is you can say what you can say, and you can believe what you believe. But at the end of the day, you cannot control how you feel about something. And you'll know based on, do you feel comfortable with this? Like, if you sit and think about it, like, how does this make you feel? You see an image, no one's around you, you just think about it. This feeling that you have, or the feeling of someone looking at you from a distance, some stranger, and you think someone's looking at you, you turn around, you see someone looking at you. That is a sixth sense. That is literally a superpower we have. And I think it exists, just not in the way that we think. You don't know what is, it's so easy to dismiss this. Just get out of it. Just get out of the rut. Just feel better. Just work on yourself. That's all you need to do. But you can't say that until you're in the exact same mood and headspace as people with low confidence or too much confidence. Because if you're in either, you lose yourself in this feeling. Because feelings will overtake your emotions. They will overtake your insight. It will, like, anything that you use, like your just any like forethought of like, hey, maybe let's not do this, or maybe let's do this, but you can't take the steps to stop or start. That is made possible because of a feeling. And it's only because of getting out of that feeling will you be able to overcome overconfidence, or I'll say overcome not having confidence, or making sure you take a step back and take it down a step from being too overconfident. So yeah. That's kind of like what I wanted to talk about today, was just kind of mainly the way I've been feeling of being overconfident and underconfident, and how it's been affecting my mental health. Because the back and forth, the yo-yo, it's not great. It's not great to be in sort of like the best headspace in the world and then immediately drop to the worst headspace in the world and then back to the highest. It's also tiring and exhausting. Like, the mental anguish that I've been going through, it's not great. But I am working on it. And again, as long as I address it and understand this is what I'm dealing with, the better help I can receive to get this fixed. And this is my advice to anyone who's dealing with something similar or something along the same lines. Just make sure you can identify it, or you know there's a problem and you're going to seek out a solution to get it identified and fixed. Because knowing will already be like a huge step forward towards a better headspace, for sure. That being said, there's something also I think, and this is going to be my talk a little bit about, actually, let's do this. I'm going to pivot a little bit. I want to talk about main character syndrome and how I want more people, and this is going to be a weird segue. I want more people to have main character syndrome. And I'm not talking about social media influencers in terms of putting a camera and being in the way of foot traffic or filming random strangers for their videos. That is a completely separate entity. But I'm specifically talking about main character syndrome as it pertains to you being the center of attention. I don't think in some ways it is necessarily a bad thing. And this goes into my argument about selfishness and how selfishness isn't inherently evil. Selflessness is good, but that doesn't necessarily make selfishness evil, because selfishness includes self-care. Taking time away from others to focus on yourself is a good thing. That's always been my stance, and it is something I put my foot down every single time when someone says, "Are you sure? But what if you want to hang out with people? They'll make you feel better." Sometimes you don't have the time for that. Sometimes you do need the space for yourself. And I will evolve that thought of taking time for yourself to focus more on main character syndrome, in the sense that I'd like everyone to imagine themselves not necessarily as a person in the world, not even a person in the nation that you reside in, but a person who lives in a community that lives with it, that is the world you live in. And if you think about any piece of fiction, non-fiction work, whether it is a biography to, you know, just a straight up what is it, an epic like the Odyssey or Lord of the Rings, like anything made up that centers around a central character and their thoughts, that is what everyone deals with. And I have this personal like belief, I call it moving kingdoms theory, where everyone has their own kingdom. And I think I've mentioned this before months ago on like a previous stream. But the idea behind moving kingdoms theory is everyone is the ruler of their own kingdom. You could have a monarchy, a royal monarchy, like just a straight up traditional monarchy. You could have a religious oligarch, like any form of government. It's all up to you. And it's based on your own perceptions and the way you interact with people around you. Like, are you a religious person? Are you not? What are the types of people that surround you, you know? So the communities that you form, the friends that you make are your kingdom. And you are the king because that is your friend group. And you are seeing things through the eyes of yourself and your actions. And you will be with yourself constantly. So that's your kingdom because that's all you see, right? I also believe your friends have other kingdoms as well. And think of it as them traveling to your kingdom if they hang out with you. And like, say, for example, I'm streaming, you know, and I invite my friend over who is another streamer, but he's on my stream, right? He's technically in my kingdom. But if I go to his stream, I'm technically in his kingdom. So the way I like to look at life is we all have these interests. Sometimes kingdoms can collaborate and have similar interests, and they'll have like royal matches, you know, where it's like, oh, what is it? Like, not fencing, shoot, the one with the sticks and the horse. Dang it, I almost had it. It's gonna come to me. But you know how they charge at each other? Lancing, right? Lancing. When the horses charge at each other and they hold the spears and they like try to push each other off, right? It's kind of like that. It's like sort of like a united front. So for me and my friends would be into anime. That would be kind of like our little lancing situation there. But for some other people, they may have different interests. So the kingdom will have its own culture. And that's how I feel about people. Like my kingdom would consist, if I'm thinking about this right, anime, K-pop, J-pop. I love comic books, so superhero movies. I like some telenovelas tossed in there. Maybe it's like a little corner in my kingdom with a couple Spanish restaurants. I love traveling, so that would be a huge point where it's like a lot of traveling merchants. And then my friend, on the other hand, who likes a lot more Super Sentai, like, and that's Dom. He likes Super Sentai. He likes history. You know, he loves Universal way more than me, and a lot more horror things like Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not the biggest Five Nights at Freddy's guy. He is. Like, that's his kingdom. So that's his culture. That's how I imagine people, is like, there's a culture to everyone. There's so much. And when you go and meet people, yeah, people will rub you the wrong way. Like other kingdoms, like maybe there's a tyrant, you know, who is the sole ruler of it, who rules his kingdom with an iron fist, you know, just something awful. You're of course going to clash. You're not going to mesh, but someone who shares the same interests, that you will bond, but the cultures within those kingdoms are going to stay the same. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I imagine main character syndrome is. Think of yourself as the king because it puts a lot of pride in yourself, in the things that you like, and it focuses more on who you interact with, because you're all responsible not only for hanging out together, but the people that count on you, the people in your life, you can consider them residents or allies of your kingdom, and they all depend on your kingdom for trade, to like in times of warfare, you know, just anything that, you know, a friendship would have or a family connection would have. Like if a family is in trouble, you're going to be there for them. If your friend is in trouble, you're going to be there for them. That's how I like to imagine it. As much as it's a weird analogy, I think it's been like a really good one to describe, in my opinion, how people interact. So yeah. I know it's such a weird analogy, but I wanted to say it because I feel like it's true. Moving Kingdom series, you can seal that. You can say Seyorias came up with it. But that's just kind of the way I view it. And if you look at my favorite shows, like I was mentioning Fairy Tail and One Piece, like the whole premise of the shows revolve around these sort of ideas of kingdoms or communities, and how one person can make a difference because of his culture, or like, and I'm not even talking about ethnicity wise, because that's a whole separate thing which you can also include, but I'm also talking about the culture of what they like, what they enjoy, where they've been, what type of person they are. And you know what? I'm not really the biggest fan of constellations at all, or like signs, you know, like star signs. But if you really wanted to incorporate that too, you know what? Kingdoms also have a night sky. And since light pollution isn't as bad back in the day of medieval times, you can even say, hey, look up. There's all these stars. There's these specific star signs that reflect who I am as a person, you know? So, yeah. Yeah, so that, again, I think it is a flawless analogy, because if you think of yourself as a larger than life, yet all these responsibilities of a ruler or king who has to look out to not only his neighboring nations, but also his people, you know, and the things that they're interested in, you can add so much importance while also being humble. And that is something I've strove for every single time, to be that person where I try to have a personality. I try to be unique. And at the end of the day, even if I may come across as cringe, I'm well-meaning. And I will make decisions, sometimes aren't the right ones, but it's all been for a specific reason. And if I make a mistake, I make a mistake for sure. Like, I'll own up to it. But I want to imagine it more as, I make a mistake, please don't take it the wrong way, because I strive to make sure everyone is comfortable and happy. I don't do anything to make anyone upset truly, unless it's for like a joke, or we're poking fun at each other, you know, like kind of like a gag. That is the only way I would like ever stoop to that level. Like the banter between knights, I guess. Yeah, the Seyorias knights, right? But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm just kind of like talking. Like, all this is unscripted, by the way. I'm not even like trying to like read out this manifesto or memo or whatever. This is just sort of like the things that I like to imagine from the media I consume. And I just like the idea of us being important. And if you think everyone is important, you're going to respect more people. If you take the time to cherish those around you, despite differences in age, differences in backgrounds, differences in financial status, and financial well-being, the more that I think you are going to succeed in life and help make the world a better place. Because it's by looking down on people and judging people and having so much prejudice that leads to the issues that we have today. And I make sure to strive to at least be above that, and be above a lot of drama. I'll talk about drama for sure, like I talked about Twitch. But again, in that video, notice how I try my best to not necessarily attack Twitch but criticize the actions of Twitch to make sure that there's a better outcome at the end of the tunnel. Because I believe Twitch is its own kingdom for sure. It is a massive kingdom, like the British Empire, right? That is Twitch if we're talking about kingdoms, and thinking about organizations as individuals. And yeah, that kingdom is falling apart. Yeah, it's pretty rough, but yeah, just watch out for yourselves, guys. Make sure that the moving kingdom theory is a way to not only inflate your ego a little bit to make yourself feel important, but also give you that understanding that you do have a lot of responsibilities with having that gained sense of responsibility and power. And just by being a good person, you can enact so much change in the world, the same way that leaders currently, world leaders, are doing with every one of their actions. You know, you have the same power in your daily life, and sometimes we forget about it. So just make sure you remember. I guess that's the main point. Well, what's the takeaway? Zenitsu was this timid, scaredy cat type character, right? For sure, at the start of the show. If you watch the movie, you see that he awakens to becoming more confident and just this absolute different type of character. And it's kind of beautiful. No, it's not kind of beautiful. It is beautiful. And I feel like everyone has the opportunity to be that way. Just start imagining yourselves as your rulers of your kingdoms, you know? And you have all this responsibility. So make sure you do your best to create the most amount of change and do your best to be a good person. And hopefully, you know, we can do some, let's do some horse races together, or was it sparring matches between our commanding knights or whatever. Whatever the medieval kingdoms did back in the day. Let's do that, and let's do it for good sport, you know. Let's have some duels. But yeah, I guess that's gonna be the end of today's stream. I just more wanted to yap about confidence and finish out really what's been sort of a down week for me, but a great week to become motivated and do my best to get back on my feet in terms of streaming and content creation. And I've done a pretty good job so far, and it's all in part thanks to you guys. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys on Monday for the next stream. I'm going to be posting a couple of videos so I don't lose my streak of not posting. I've been really good about it, like really good. So hopefully I can keep up the steam and momentum, and we'll go from there. So catch you guys later. Thanks for watching, and toodles. Why did I say toodles? That's so weird.